until all have crossed, none have crossed, and some we have to carry, kicking and screaming. I sought to hear the voice of God and climbed the topmost steeple, but God declared, "Come down again. I dwell among the people."
Brothers and sisters all, we gather in God's house to celebrate the life of Dr. Pat Bishop in a program entitled In Pat's House. We gather in God's house to enter Pat's world, a dream and vision to which she dedicated her life here on earth and which she died in the very struggle to realize.
Tua fredda stanza, guardi le stelle che tremano d'amore e di speranza. Ma il mio mistero è chiuso in me.
In peace and rise in glory.
Patricia Allison Bishop, always simply called Pat, was the first child of Ina and Sonny. Pat was born in Newtown, Port of Spain, Trinidad, on the 7th of May 1941, 2 years before her sister and only sibling, Gillian.
I think the music brand, was placed on Pat within hours of her birth. Daddy and some friends of his who sang everywhere they could sing, in hospitals, in the jail, and whatever. They call themselves the Jubilee Singers. And they went to Mummy's bedside where the little one was lying, and they sang, Ina had a baby. My mother's name was Ina. Ina had a baby, yes, my Lord. The people keep her coming, and the train doesn't go on. So that was so much a part of her growing up, of her as a child. She had a very deep speaking voice, but she was also a natural soprano. So there was always the argument as to whether Pat was a soprano or a contralto. And Daddy felt she was the next Mary Ann Anderson. So it was really difficult with a passionate musician as a father, really very difficult to escape the brand of music that we were enveloped in as children. I never really saw Pat as being a child. She was always a small person. Mrs. Olga Maynard used to give this story about Pat, who looked at her one day and said, Mrs. Maynard, how time flies. She was about 5 at the time. So that when you talk about what sort of child she was never, to me, a child. She was always a small person who had very strong views about what should happen and how it should happen. We gave concerts in the garage. She erected a scrim so that we could appear to be stabbing somebody on a table because it was all in shadow. I did not. There's where I got to know about a scrim. I was 6, So that, yeah, very difficult to talk about Pat as a child. So it was a grown-up in a child's body, knowing exactly what she wanted and how she wanted it.
If you talk about carnival, multiculturalism, policy development, you string all of those words together in one sentence, 1 teaspoonful, you need an awful lot of sugar to make that medicine go down. And we would therefore need to take those words apart, figure out what they mean, and then see what the analysis requires. Anything short of that is just going to land you into repeating what I suspect is nonsense.
When I first met Pat, I was about 8 or 9 years old. It had to do with the production of a kiddies carnival band, which Pat was bringing. And the thoughts that I have to this day is when we went to the house, the costuming and who was going to do what role. What amazed me was all the adults in this home, and there were quite a few, uncles and aunties, and everybody was saying, Pat doesn't want it that way. Pat wanted that way. If you do it that way, Pat will get annoyed. And when she would pass, they would say, Pat, is this the way you want it? And this is my first meeting of Pat. So what amazed me really was, here was this 8 or 9-year-old girl, and all the adults wanted to do, she was controlling all the adults. And to this day, it's in my memory. And that's my first meeting with Pat.
While still at school and in her teens, Pat exhibited with Peter Minshall, and Jackie Hinkson at the Old Market in Woodbrook, Port of Spain. As a schoolgirl, she also designed 3 consecutive winning Carnival Queen gowns, which were sewn by her mother, Ina.
I don't think Pat was ever one to waste an experience. If she was walking down the road and saw something, it affected her. So that going to England, to the mother country, so to speak, she took in everything, did everything. She went to concerts, she went to plays, she went to cathedrals, she went to everything. She was involved in everything. That was Pat. Everything that she came into contact with, she became interested, deeply interested, allowed it to course through her veins, so to speak.
Her signature contribution in music and her legacy, however, has been her work directing the Lydian singers. The Lydians were formed in 1980, and later she established Lydian Steel, a completely literate steel ensemble, which has become the orchestra of the Lydian singers. The Lydians give at least 30 performances a year and have in their impressive repertoire the Verdi Requiem, the Missa Creola, Beethoven's Choral Fantasy, operas by Coleridge, Puccini, Delius, and Donizetti.
I know Pat quite a long time actually, because we were Tranquility together. That was Tranquility Girls Intermediate School under Miss Humilta Muckshine, formidable lady. But we met up again actually with the Lydians. At the time I had just come back from England. My husband had died in England and I stayed there a few years afterwards. And I went to a concert that the Lydians did at the Central Bank Auditorium. And Eddie Cumberbatch sang Friends in High Places. And I wept. I just wept all through that performance. And I thought, something could move you so deeply has to be something that you have to know more about. So the following January, that was a Christmas concert. The following January, I found myself in Bishop Anstey High School Hall to find out about the Lydians. And I walked in and I was greeted by somebody saying, "Are you a new member?" And I thought, yes, I am a new member, and gave my name and address and phone number and all of those things. And Pat came in afterwards and she saw me seated there as if I was a real person and said, "Oh, look, Barbara Lafont here." And I just became a Lydian. Nobody asked me to sing, to test my voice or anything like that. And to me, that was the huge thing about being a Lydian. You were there not only because you could sing, and a lot of us couldn't really, but because we were there for an education. There is so much I learned about making the best of everything you can do just by being in the Lydians. When Pat spoke and we were doing a piece, it was never just learning the piece. It was understanding the piece. She would spend ages explaining, for example, a phrase like, "lead a blissful life." Anybody here has any idea what bliss means? She looked around, she said, "No, I guess not." But bliss is not just happy. Bliss is beyond happy. And we're not talking about a blissful day, which I'm sure you can't even imagine, but a blissful life. And then she went on to describe where we should place the emphasis in that little phrase. And she unpicked the entire piece that we were trying to sing, just 3 or 4 lines, but she unpicked every word just so that we would get it just right.
Pat studied at Durham between 1962 and 65, graduating with an honors degree in fine art, having offered a thesis on English neoclassical sculpture. While in the United Kingdom, however, alongside work for her degree, Pat privately pursued studies in voice, piano, orchestra, and history of music with Elsie Taube.
She was an exemplar. She didn't preach about anything except that you were to do it absolutely brilliantly and perfectly. You know, she didn't say, do what I do. As Daddy was like, do what I do. Sing, play the piano, play the guitar, play whatever it is. But she was doing what she was doing to the very, very best that she could. And this was the example I think she set for us. You know, people like to live another life. So that if I am a shopkeeper, I want my child to be a wonderful shopkeeper, a better shopkeeper than me. I don't think she was about that. She was about the way in which she did what she did.
Made 8 major tours with Desperados that remain the stuff of legend, including 2 famous Carnegie Hall concerts.
It's not enough to be able to find your pan, your note on your pan, and recognize it on paper. That's only half of it. The other part of it is being able to play properly. And what we need to do now is to develop those exercises that will come out of literacy, come out of examination, close examination of the skills which a good player requires. A good player who has to find out where the sweet spots are on his pan face. That kind of thing, the relationship between the whole physical body and the instrument. Anytime you see a good player of any instrument, you will recognize that they are at one with the instrument. It's almost as though it's one thing that's working to make the music. And that's the next step that we have to take. We have to study the techniques, see what the hands do, see how to maximize the possibilities of sound and musicianship, music making that are present in the pan, underdeveloped though it is. So it's up to the university, it's up to all of you who have an interest in it to try and hold on to it, to do all that is necessary to make the instrument work. Not merely only as a way of keeping youngsters out of trouble, but as a way of giving this country, which is still so very young, a soul and a purpose of its own. Thank you.
I think Pat would want to be remembered as one who gave everybody an opportunity, one or more opportunities to develop, and it sounds very corny, to develop the potential that she may not have seen, but that she had faith was there. So that if in your voyage of discovery of yourself and realizing talents that neither she nor you had, she would be overjoyed at the development. And that is one of the joys of her life, that she wasn't sure that there was stuff there, but she, in the process of, as she would say, peeling away the layers and getting getting you or helping you to develop that particular talent, or to realize the talent in the first place and then develop it. I think that was what she was all about, and that is what she would want us to continue to do. To continue to raise up people and to encourage them and to make them understand how valuable what they are doing is.
When we were doing Turandot, she was getting together a group to do a booklet. Now, I had never done any writing or working with groups to produce a whole booklet for an opera, but she said to me, "You will write. You will be part of this group and you will write." And I had to go and do research about the opera, where it was performed, about the composer, and suddenly she would look at a piece and say, "This is great, this is absolutely right." And her highest praise for writing was, "Anything better than this is wrong." And I felt very heartened, and she encouraged me really to go on and to do writing, which I had never imagined I would like to do.
It's difficult to say it in one or two words, but I would like to use one particular word: her capacity for any and everything. It was amazing. That endless energy. And as I said, let me repeat, her capacity to do things and do them well is what I would say is her legacy.
I believe that Pat would have wanted everybody, every child in school, at various levels, in primary school and secondary school, in no school at all, she would have wanted us to keep on working at whatever it is we were good at, or we wanted to develop. She would have wanted that to happen. She would have wanted the society to value and to place value on what we are as individuals, and to make space for development and growth, to appreciate what is ours, whether it is old buildings or habits or food or any of the things that make a civilization what it is. I think that was what she was all about. She understood that it takes eons to develop that, but we have to start somewhere, and she was prepared to do the work, as she would say, to do the work, to put down the kind of markers, the kind of do the kind of homework that we needed to do. And at the same time, doing it in a loving environment.
Emancipation is kind of it's a jokey word because nobody can make you free. You are or you are not. Chains don't make you a slave. That may make you uncomfortable, very uncomfortable, but freedom is a state of mind. And either you are or you are not. And that's a decision that you have to make.